Great, thank you very much, you two. So we're now going to come to Hannah, and we're going to have a little chat with Hannah. So first of all, Hannah, when did you start scouting, and where?
So I started scouting when I was 10. I joined my local scout group because my next door neighbour, George, his mum said, "Yeah, I think it'd be really good. Hannah should join scouts. She should go with George one week." To my mum, because I was really quiet, quite timid. And luckily, my mum took her advice and sent me along, and I really enjoyed it. Actually, it was a really good experience right from the start, and I'm really glad that obviously I took part in it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Very true. And what is your best memory from your early years in scouting?
So my best memory from my early years is probably my first ever summer camp, because it was the first camp I went on, just literally a couple of months in before I started. And I remember the letter came out the second week that I joined Scouts. And I said to my mum, I was like, I really, really want to go on this camp. She was like, are you sure? It's going to be a whole week away. You've never done this before. Are you sure you want to go for a whole week? And I was like, yeah, I really, really want to go. And I went on it, and it was such an amazing experience. So I think my biggest memory was washing our hair just in this river with obviously appropriate washing powder and stuff, which was just crazy because it was freezing cold, but we had loads of fun doing it. And also a sheep running into our toilet tent is the one that sticks out in my mind as well. So that was quite an interesting little experience.
Did you manage to get the sheep out again?
We did. Luckily it was on the last day as well, so probably got attracted by a bit of the smell.
And who's inspired you most in scouting?
So for me, I think the most inspirational person was my county commissioner from a couple of years ago. His name was Ben Richardson, and he really encouraged me sort of from the age of 16 to really join the county team and have an impact there as well. And I think his support is really what's driven me throughout scouting, but unfortunately he passed away a couple of weeks ago, so it was quite a difficult time. But yeah, definitely he was definitely my biggest inspiration.
So what made you want to stay in scouting when you became an adult?
I think when I became an adult, it was really important to me to give back what I'd received from scouting. So scouting gave me a really safe place to express myself and be myself and sort of, have my voice heard, whereas at school I felt still quite timid and quite shy. And I knew that a lot of other young people would get so much from scouting, and unless you have adults there to support scouting, you just won't have that opportunity for young people. So I really wanted to make sure that carried on.
So what roles have you undertaken since you've been an adult in scouting?
So I've been, an assistant Cub Scout leader. I've assistant Scout leader. I did those both as a young leader as well. I've also been assistant county commissioner for explorers, and I also ran an explorers boat expedition to Kenya. And then more recently, my role as UK Youth Commissioner.
So what made you want to become UK Youth Commissioner?
So when I saw it advertised on Facebook, I thought it looked like a really awesome opportunity. But it wasn't until actually it was Ben, who I mentioned earlier, who was a big inspiration to me. He'd seen the advert as well, and just when I'd sort of ruled myself out and thought, no, I can't really do that, he just dropped me an email and said, have you seen this? This would be perfect for you with your experience. And I think it was that encouragement from him, as sort of like a peer, as a mentor, that really encouraged me to put my application in. And I think that would be my biggest message to any adult in scouting, is that your encouragement means so much to young people, and it's that that little tip-off or that little word of encouragement that can make the difference in someone's life.
So what do you get up to being a UK Youth Commissioner then?
Loads of stuff. So I guess the most important, the most exciting part of the role, I guess, is really being able to make an impact on scouting for 500,000 people across the UK. So working in partnership with Wayne Bulpit, who's our Chief Commissioner, our Chief Exec, Matt, and our Chair of the Board, Anne. And between us, we share out the responsibility of leading the movement and leading our sort of different teams to do that. So that's kind of like one part of it. The other part of it is travelling around the country, really seeing what groups are up to, finding out how young people are having their voices heard, and sharing those ideas across the country as well. So really helping people to understand youth-shaped scouting a bit more and to implement it in their local area.
What good ideas have you seen to do with youth-shaped scouting then on your travels?
Gosh, there's been loads. I think my favourite ones have probably been in groups and in sections, because that's where all young people have the opportunity to shape their scouting. So just seeing the different ways that people are running youth forums. I visited Lincolnshire County a couple of weeks ago. Shout out to them. They had a really good patrol leader training weekend, and they were really encouraging young people to take on those leadership roles and training them around it as well. So that was really good to see. So I think they're probably my highlights. Those ones.
And what's been the best part since you've been a UK Youth Commissioner?
The best part since being UK Youth Commissioner, gosh, that's a big one. I think for me, probably the first U-Shape event we ran in 2015, so February 2015, because we didn't have very much time to put it together. Our venue dropped out at the last minute, so we had to change it really quickly before getting the information out, and we still managed to pull it together. It was the first time we'd ever live streamed a scouting event, and I was told in the run-up to it, we've never done it before, it's not possible, you can't do it, and I really worked hard with my team to make it happen, and I think just being able to say, we did it, was really a really proud moment for us, and now it's kind of a concept that they're taking on for other events as well, and they're starting to be live streamed and really allowing more people to get involved with conversations when they're not in the room. I think that's really important around Youth-Shaped Scouting.
And looking at your whole scouting history, what's your best memory?
Best memory? I think that's such a big question that I'll just pick out a recent memory. It's probably the easiest thing to do because there's so many of them. I think my recent trip, I went to Madagascar with some of the Community Impact Group, who are the team nationally who are driving the Million Hands project. And we went out to Madagascar with WaterAid, who are one of our Million Hands partners, to see what scouts in Madagascar are doing in their community to support WaterAid and to support water hygiene and sanitation out there. And it was so inspiring seeing people who in reality didn't have very much going out and helping their community and just doing the smallest things which were making such a difference. So they were doing campfire songs with local communities, teaching about how they should be washing their hands after they go to the toilet or before making food or actually using a toilet. A lot of people weren't doing that. And also sort of dispelling a taboo around sort of menstrual hygiene and female hygiene as well. And it was so amazing seeing what they could do in their local area, and then just sort of using that as a bit of a stimulus for people in the UK to really get them on board with A Million Hands and to really help make a difference around the world. So that was really interesting to see. So
what can Scouts in the UK do for A Million Hands?
So the main thing really around that is it's all about how do we make sure that our local decision makers know how important clean water and sanitation is. Because what I didn't realise is that actually there isn't as much funding going into it as you might think. It's a really basic amenity that everybody needs. Everybody needs clean water, they need sanitation, otherwise it affects their livelihood. And we just need to ensure that local decision makers and also MPs and that they understand that. So any event that they might run in your group as a district, as a county, inviting those people along and showing them that their community really cares for people around the world. I think that's the most important thing. I mean, the other things, if there are people who are really interested in it, particularly around network age, they could start up projects around going to Madagascar and experiencing that for themselves. But there's so much we can still do from the UK about spreading the message and helping people to understand that we might be able to just turn on the tap, but not everybody around the world has that opportunity.
So what great ideas have you seen for people taking part in A Million Hands?
For anything in general?
Any of the ones.
I think the one that I mentioned earlier with Merseyside with the Dementia Friends I really liked, because it wasn't just looking at those who are affected by the disease, but also the supporters and the carers around them. So that was quite exciting. There's also a project that I've heard of in Manchester, which is trying to make the local area really friendly towards those who are blind or partially sighted. Just things like signs outside of shops when they're further than a metre away or something like that. They're meant to be within that space from a shop, but when they're further out, somebody without vision is not going to be able to walk around that. Or if the people have got low-hanging trees outside their gardens and their dog walks under it, that's absolutely fine, but they're going to walk straight into that tree. And just really understanding and putting yourselves into other people's shoes. And helping our young people to understand that. So Beavers, Cubs and Scouts, that they're going to grow up in a much more friendly society for those who are disabled.
So Hannah, you've picked our songs for today. Mm-hmm. What influenced your choice of music?
So there were a couple of different influences. So the one that we just heard actually about Frank Turner, there's a line that I really like in it that says, let go of the little distractions, hold close to the ones that you love. And I just think that's really important because we can get so hung up on the little things that we kind of forget about the big picture and the really exciting things in life. So I really like that. Home, which we had earlier as well, that just reminds me of landing after being away last summer back in the UK after the Jamboree and spending time in the Philippines, and thinking, it's actually really nice just to be home now. And I went straight to Gilwell Reunion, and that was lots of fun as well. I think we've got a bit of Foo Fighters coming up later, and that one I chose because on the day that I got the phone call to say that I had got the role of UK Youth Commissioner, I was actually walking in to see Foo Fighters play at the Invictus Games closing ceremony in 2014, and they've just started the next one again in Orlando now. So that's just like, for me, when I hear the Foo Fighters, I just think that was the day, that was the amazing day for me. That sort of changed my life. I know it sounds really cheesy, but it really did change my life. So yeah, and perhaps Shake It Off as well. So a bit of Taylor Swift later, kind of a bit like my mantra of, you can't please everyone, so just keep going and keep powering through and just believe in what you think.
So we're still live on Herald Radio, and we're still with Hannah Kentish. So we're got a few more questions, Hannah.
Cool.
In one sentence, why should young people join Scouting?
One sentence? Gosh.
Yes.
Can it be a really long sentence?
It could be as long as you like.
Oh, I have to think about this. Okay, so young people should join Scouting because it gives you the opportunity to try new stuff that you wouldn't get to try anywhere else, which will help develop you for later life, but in a fun way so you won't even realise it. But let's not ever use that as a quote because that's actually a bit naff.
Yeah, we'll edit that out. And then, in one sentence, why should adults join Scouting?
Adults should join Scouting to help every young person reach their potential in life. And also because it can be really developmental for adults as well. Not only do they get to join in with the activities that young people are doing as well and, conquer their fears, but also they're developing skills for their CV.
That's great.
Long sentence.
That was a very long sentence, but it was a sentence. And finally, what are you looking forward to most in Scouting?
So the thing that I'm looking forward to most in Scouting, would probably be seeing the outcomes of the Youth Shape strategy, which we've just had agreed by the board. So we've just finalised a little bit more about what it means for Scouting to become more youth-shaped. So we've kind of divided it into 4 areas around programme, transition at 18, sort of keeping young people interested in Scouting, then looking at young people in management roles and also young people in governance roles, so, trustee boards and stuff like that. And I'm really excited to see how that's going to develop over the next year or two whilst I'm still in the role, particularly around the programme element. So I know that so many groups are already taking part in amazing youth-shaped Scouting, but we just need to highlight it and share it with other people and share those ideas so people can that understand that A, they are doing youth-shaped Scouting, it's something we've always done, and B, they can be really proud of their achievements as well.
That sounds brilliant. Thank you very much.